morning, Andrey. Thanks a lot for joining. Welcome to my channel. Can we start with a short
Morning.
introduction from you?
Absolutely. Good morning, and thanks for having me. Well, to start, you can say I'm a software engineer, builder of things, with more of 15 years of experience in the workplace. Worked with the different companies, big and small, like the big ones you could recognize Ericsson as a name. But for the last 6 years, I think I switched the gears and I'm focused on consulting and working with the small companies, startups only, because those tend to move much faster and you're getting much more things done. You work with more advanced technologies and you spend less time dealing with politics, PowerPoint, that you have to deal with when you implementing a change in a bigger enterprise where you have to get people on board, get them moving, get approvals, proof of technology, proof of concept, all those things. And in a startup, you just move forward and you are much more connected to the business. So that's why I'm focused on that. And I'm specializing in cloud engineering, focused on building infrastructure as code with for AWS using containers, serverless, all those technologies. I also have quite a big background in doing consulting around continuous delivery. So all my professional work, I worked around automation. So I wasn't working as much on the product side, but I was always doing some kind of automation, making sure that developers are productive, that they can deliver faster, that we can release faster, they can release with more confidence, building continuous delivery pipeline, building infrastructure. It's all interconnected. And I'm not well known for short answers.
Sorry, I didn't get that last part.
Yeah, I'm not well known for the short answers, and this one is not being a short one.
Okay. Okay. So you said you moved from a big company to a small company, but you started with a big company, Ericsson, or you had worked for a smaller company before?
Yeah, so I started working for outsourcer company back in Russia while I was in university. So, and by the time I'm graduated from university, I got a contract from Ericsson and I moved to Stockholm and spent 4 years working with Ericsson. It was a good time and quite enjoyed a great company, met a lot of good people, learned a lot from them. But also I was hitting a little bit of a limit in there, since the career path for me, it's like going very deep technical, but I didn't really see where I can progress. Since like all continuous integration, continuous delivery field was quite new and people still couldn't figure out the career path around those. So everything was quite ad hoc, all going into the management and leading the people. And I do have inclination for leadership, but I like to combine that with technical leadership. And I couldn't see the path in there. And around that time, I saw that the Danish consulting company Pragma was looking to start the operations in Sweden, and they were looking for person to spearhead the new office creation in Sweden. And I signed up to be the CEO. Never did business development, don't speak Swedish. What could possibly go wrong? But it was 2 fun years with Pragma. So we grew in 2 years, we grew into the 3 offices. I think it was about 10, 15 people we employed. And we had a steady stream of revenue, happy clients. So the business was looking quite well, but I also wanted to travel. And actually, Pragma was my first experience working like with a small company. When I joined, they were about 20. When I left, they were somewhere between 50 and 70. But in 2017, I decided to do a switch and actually go solo. since I was a little bit tired, again, from combining technical work and leadership position. So I was grooming people, helping people to grow and train them, but also I was consulting at the same time. And it's kind of hard to sit on the two chairs. So I decided I would go solo for a little while, and I also wanted to work remotely. So from 2017, I'm working remotely, and I'm not considering doing any office work. Me and my family, we went to Thailand for half a year, lived there, and I had a customer in US. Then we traveled around Europe a little bit, ended up settling at Canary Islands. We lived in Canary Islands for 3 years. And now I'm back in Stockholm. I'm still, working remotely, and then the whole COVID happened, so everyone have to work remotely.
That's interesting. So how did you consider, like, when you switched over from Ericsson to a freelancing mode, sort of? I'm sure
It
that
wasn't
was a
exactly
culture.
a freelancing. So it wasn't exactly freelancing. So I came as a manager who was doing a little bit of consulting on the side, growing the business. So like from 2017, I went solo. And then in the end of 2019, 2020, me and my friend, we decided to join forces. And now together we're building FivexL, which is like a small guild of independent consultants. We're about 7 people now. And we enjoy being that. So like we just small team, like a group of friends who help each other with a project, and that's kind of the balance I like. So it's not too big, not you're not alone, but at the same time it's not too big, and you still know everyone. You have a good communication with anyone, so with everyone. So
okay, but it must have been a culture shock coming out of the sandbox of a big company and facing the market yourself. So, had you planned for it, or did it come to you? How did you plan for it?
Oh, you mean how do I find clients? Oh,
yeah, not just primarily the clients and also other aspects of the work. In a company, you have everything given to you. You just sit on your desk and do it. And you're doing it on your own. There are a lot of things that come along with it.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me too much. So you have to do a little bit of bootstrapping, get all the processes right. But also with this, you have a lot of freedom, right? In a big company, you have all set for you already, and you have to fit yourself into the box they got for you, like the framework, and they say like, this is your career ladder, and you have to be this, and after that you have to be that, and in order to get this promotion, you have to do this and that and find promotion sponsor. And you should understand that this is clouds, like, the imaginary clouds in the sky. Something that they imagine in a big company to keep you occupied, right? So you have some kind of direction to move forward. And for some people, it's great because some people like to have a direction given to them. I'm more type of the free thinking person. I don't really like boundaries too much, and I not kept up with all the titles because, like, when the people just graduating, they're thinking that your title is very important, and they ready to work for a title. And after some time, you understand that, well, like in a small company, you can call yourself whatever, like director of engineering, like you're 5 of you there, and you can call yourself whatever. It doesn't really matter. It matters what you do, and it matters how good you are. And that's what I like in a small company, is that it's more merit driven, right? And you also get a chance of touching a lot of different areas. Science. There are quite often not enough resources to have a dedicated people solving certain problems. And then you have to step in and solve that. And most important, you're very close to the business. So any company, it has a business model, right? And business model is what brings the money to the company. And the business model is what pays your salary in the end. And when people coming out of the university, they're thinking that they're going to be paid for writing a smart code, some advanced functions. or like doing, a lot of coding, but that's not true. Well, you have to do coding, but you do coding not to get paid. You're doing the coding to solve the business problem, to advance the business, so business can deliver more value to its customers and can stay competitive. And if you don't understand how business makes money, it doesn't really matter how smart code you write. I mean, how smart it is. If it's not solving business problem, it's worthless. And this is, I think, a big misunderstanding when people coming to the workplace. And when you're coming to the big company, it's very hard to see where the money coming from, because there are so many layers of management, different departments, and you might be very remote from the customers, right? So you might be building some small thing that will be a piece of the biggest thing, and a piece of bigger thing, which in the end will become a product, right? And it's kind of hard for you to see how you influence the sales of that product, how the work you're doing, how that would influence the revenue. And if you're lucky, you get a good leader, you get a good management who could actually dig into this and communicate it back to you. You can ask them and they will have answers. But in my experience, it's really hard to get those answers answered from the management because they don't know themselves. And then your salary is kind of what you bargain for without having any metric or any connection to the real life, or like your contribution to the business in the end, because it's really hard to estimate. And in a small company, you're next to your customer. Like what you do, you see how it will be consumed by the customers tomorrow or today. And that keeps you engaged, that keeps you very focused on what you do. And it also helps to separate things that don't need to be done, right? Something that doesn't generate value from things that needs to be done. And this is a very creative environment that I enjoy a lot.
Oh, that's interesting. So how did you choose CICD as a? Very few people are taking that as a specialization path.
Yeah, so now it is becoming some kind of specialization, and like in bigger companies, you might have platform teams that would do CICD and internal tooling. But when I started to work with this type of automation, CI/CD wasn't really a thing. There was like CD wasn't really a term yet, so the book came out later. And I was a software developer basically. My primary target, my primary goal was to support implementation of SCTP protocol. There is a TCP protocol, but there is also SCTP protocol, Stream Control Transmission Protocol. It's like more advanced version of TCP that could use multiple IP addresses, could avoid congestions better, and so on and so on. That's not so important. So I was supposed to fixing bugs and write features, but also I had a side assignment. So I had to collect quality metrics. So every month I would have to go take every software model, run all the unit tests, see how many passing, how many failing, coverage, static analysis, dynamic memory analysis, then build it up into a report and send it to Ericsson. Since we were outsourcers, we needed to show that we are doing the good job and the software we are producing is good quality, and that was the way of showing that. And what happened is the person who did it before me, he was doing that by hand. And someone told me that there is such thing called bash. So you could take all those commands that you would run, put them into the file, and you run that file, and it does everything for you. So I spent like 2 weeks not doing what I supposed to be doing, like collecting all those metrics, doing it by hand, but actually writing that bash file to do it all for me. And my bet was that I could do it overnight then, and that will free up my time to educate myself even more in automation. So over multiple iterations, I ended up building a bash file that would run every night, and it will generate HTML report for all components. And that gave a feedback to developers basically immediately. So they would commit their changes. And then next day they could see that the changes actually affected the quality metrics because there are new component tests failing, there are new static analysis warnings that they need to address. And we could see that the quality of those metrics, I cannot say the quality of the product, but the quality of those KPIs, like those KPIs started to climb up since people were getting constant feedback. And then eventually I wrote the whole like continuous integration, continuous delivery systems that would do the builds and tests overnight for the software, not only run unit tests. I extended that suite. And eventually the guys in Ericsson, they noticed my efforts because I was doing that in my spare time. Just staying late and experimenting, learning. I also learned Python while doing that. And then they say like, well, Andrey, we have a team of 7 consultants doing the same what you are doing, but you're doing it a lot and delivering more than they do. How about we hire you? So yeah, that sounds good to me. So basically then I stopped being the software developer. So I stopped working on the protocols and on the product and switched full time on doing continuous integration, continuous delivery. And later, like in a couple of years, we learned that, well, what we are doing is actually called continuous integration, continuous delivery. And I'm lucky because, I came into the workplace and I found something that I'm passionate about very quickly, but not everyone might be so quickly, might not be so lucky, right? So that's why I tell to people, go try different things, try leadership, try testing, try penetration testing, try development, try automation, see what ticks with you. Because if you enjoy doing that, then time fly, and it's not a chore, right? So it's like a hobby project. You're not getting tired when you're doing that. So, and then the job becoming a joy, and this is how it should be, I believe.
That's nice. So you started working on it even before it was called CICD. You just ended up doing it, and then when you were actually enjoying it, it came to you as CICD.
Kind of, yeah. So then when I came to Pragma, I was basically doing CICD and teaching people doing CICD as a consultant. But later on, I started to shift gears toward to the cloud and cloud engineering science. With Pragma, we worked with the big companies, and this type of digital transformation, like taking the companies that are not doing CI/CD and making them do CI/CD, it's a project for 2 or 3 years, a lot of education, and it's tough. It's tough to sell, it's tough to implement, and also usually the smaller companies, they kind of do it more naturally because it's easier, right? It's easier to do continuous integration, continuous delivery for the Node.js website comparing to the Volvo truck.
Yeah.
It's just a totally different effort because with a Node.js website, there are so many people who doing that. And the way how to do it is well understood. You can Google it, and then you just copy paste some code, and you already got something to start with, and then you can improve on that. But if you have to do that with embedded product that only you know how to build, it's completely different game. You have to like reinvent it all the time. But this type of work for consultant, it doesn't scale that well, right? Because it's very domain focused. And me being remote, I don't really wanna have a problem finding customers. So that's why I decided to switch gears a little bit and focus on the cloud, because cloud is available from any place in the world, right? So you just connect to the console and infrastructure is code. It's very similar to continuous integration, continuous delivery, and actually like infrastructure as code is very intertwined together with continuous integration, continuous delivery, because it in many cases enables continuous integration, continuous delivery. Like if you have infrastructure as code, it's much more easier to do those things, much more easier to continuously automate. And so I kind of doing the same thing, but just focusing on a different domain within it now.
Okay. Like when you're doing it, consulting in a remote way and training the organization to switch over to infrastructure as code or to CI/CD,
Yeah.
do you find a big communication barrier? And teaching them what they should be doing, but they're already doing it and you're telling them, no, this is not the right way to do it.
Well, in my experience, they quite often don't do it. So, or they do it in some way that it's very painful.
Okay.
You know, I'm very pragmatic, and pragmatism is very important in a small company. So if something works, you don't change it because it works. It delivers the result you expect. But if it doesn't, if it causes the pain, it causes the friction, then yeah, you have to come in, step in, and change it and improve it. And this is where my experience comes. Quite often, I could see things that are not hurting right now, but half year later, it's gonna hurt a lot, and it will be much harder to change it if you're not changing it now. And quite often, I'm communicating those type of things, and what works today, it's great, but I could see that half a year we will have a problem with that. We'll have to change it, but if we start changing it now, then it will be way less work half year from now, right? Sorry, I'm confusing the times a little bit.
Yeah. So, and then how do you go about how do customers come to you?
It's mostly it's referrals, I would say. So we are not doing much of active sale, but we at FivexL doing the good job. People recommending us to their friends, their colleagues. So we actually have more work than we can handle. So we have to turn some customers down and saying sorry, well, we can't help you because we are busy. And also there are other companies that come and be very clear on with whom we work, right? So we work remote only, small companies or startups, and some companies that build on top of AWS. If we tick those boxes, then we talk. If we don't tick those boxes, then they're not our clients really. They have to find someone else who would be better help for them. Like for instance, if we have someone who said well, we need help with a Google Cloud. No, we will not do a good job there. Come if you want to do AWS. Or if the big bank comes to us and says we need 10 people to sit in those 10 chairs doing what we tell them. That's not what we do. We come in, we build, we help the business evolve through the reliable infrastructure and being able to deliver the service that customers expect, reliably, not like Facebook did yesterday, for instance. But well, I shouldn't be poking into Facebook. Problems happens with everyone. So, but anyhow, we are making sure that those problems are less probable through using infrastructure as core, right?
Okay. Another thing I saw on your LinkedIn profile, you have often spoken in conferences and on different forums.
Yeah.
Is that recent, or have you been doing it ever since you were with Ericsson?
Well, I started to do quite a lot of public speaking when I joined Pragma. I also did quite a lot of internal meetups in Ericsson, so I moved a lot within. And since one of my first assignments in Ericsson was just to take a big business unit of 1,000+ people and move them from ClearCase to Git. And they spent 10 years building stuff in ClearCase. And 10 years of legacy, millions of lines of code, all the tooling is built for ClearCase. That was a massive project that we took on. And then actually Ericsson IT, they took what we built for that department, and then they used those learnings to help other departments and business units to move from ClearCase to Git. And we've been doing that in 2011, 2012. And then in 2013 and 2014, I also moved my line manager was sending me to other business units to teach them how to move from ClearCase to Git. So I was doing a lot of internal trainings, a lot of presentations, and now it's just a matter of the public speaking. For me is just a matter of doing the public learning. So I just share what I learn, and I'm using that to get a feedback from people. So I see I'm always interested for these people coming after the talk and asking the questions. So I'm very interested in their questions to see how they understand the topic. Do they understand the topic in the same way as I do? Like, for instance, lately I've been talking a lot about immutable infrastructure and how it's different from configuration synchronization. And not everyone understands it in the same way as I. So I want to find those people who understand it differently and try to understand how they understand it, because then I might uncover something that I've been missing all along. So it's a communication with people. So like you could see the public speaking as a way to prompt people to talk, right? Like you would sit down, watch a movie together, and then you discuss the movie. And this discussion is more fruitful than the movie itself. So my public presentation is more like to lay the foundation for that conversation, and I enjoy those conversations after.
Okay, so how many people come back to you after typically?
I usually have 5-10 people coming asking for the slides, and some people sticking behind and discussing, debating, not being some agree, some disagree, some just doesn't understand what I said. It's quite different and then dependent from the conference, right? So if I would present about infrastructure as code on automation-focused conference like DevOps Days, the people who come to DevOps Days, they kind of know the topic, so they heard about it. They have much more understanding than if I do that for developers. I will get like, I don't know, Java, JFocus or something like that, or some Java conference, for instance, or some Golang conference. Then those concepts might be more less known by developers, so it's not something that they work with on everyday basis, and then their reaction will be different, right? So they might have some misunderstanding, or they might see it from different angle, and that's where it's very fruitful side. Then I get to see how they see it, and next time I communicate with developers, helping them to do infrastructure as code, I can communicate in their language how developers see that, not how automation people see that. Because for automation people, like, yeah, infrastructure as code is great, we should do that, absolutely. And for developers, what is that again? why is it good? So why should I spend my time on this?
So
and then finding the right way to communicate that is very important.
Okay. So how do you choose these topics? Because I've seen your topics were quite niche ones. Like it's not a generic tutorial of CICD. It was a very specific topic for every presentation.
Yeah. So this is what I said. I basically sharing what I learned, right? So I learned this topic. I share it. Like lately, last year I did a presentation of parsing CloudTrail in AWS with pandas. And I did that presentation because I spent some time parsing CloudTrail with pandas, trying to understand what's going on in a organization account. And I figured that could be useful for people. Oh no, actually my presentation was parsing HashiCorp Vault with pandas, and that was inspired by the work I did with CloudTrail and pandas, because I first did CloudTrail parsing with pandas, but then I figured, well, I could do the same with audit log in a HashiCorp Vault, since I can apply the same type of thinking and draw the same type of conclusion from the audit, because the CloudTrail audit log and HashiCorp audit log, in essence, they are very similar. They tell you what entity did what APIs they call, and you want to know, like, was there some unusual IP addresses? Are there people with the root privileges calling that, or there are like some configuration changes that people shouldn't be doing? And you can deduct all of that from the log very quickly if you have a means to parse that. And that was very powerful for me in my work. And I thought, well, I'm gonna go out and share, since I couldn't find any material describing that on Google, how you take the HashiCorp Vault audit log and parse that with pandas. So I thought people might be interested in this.
Okay, that's nice. Now, one other question, as you said, the business domain, like you should understand where you're contributing to the business as it is.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of freshers, especially coming into job. They are in a hurry to start typing some code. And
Yeah.
very few people really want to understand business and know that they don't even know that it's important to understand the business and then contribute to it.
Yeah, you
Did you
have to
face
come
such
in, you
people and how did you
observe.
convince them?
Yeah. Well, you don't really have to convince them. It's you have to explain, right? So you have to show them this is what we do. This is how we're being paid, right? And for instance, in consulting, it's very easy. You do the project, pay for the project, and the transaction is very simple. But I think the problem comes from the some of the businesses that have a hard understanding and hard time communicating how they make money. Since it could be quite convoluted, right? And it might be hard to find those answers. Like smaller companies, they have a better understanding of this because they're very close to the customers. I said before, the bigger companies, you have sales people, you have marketing, you have engineering, everyone contributing. How do you know who did the better jobs here and who like increased sales? Was it like sales, or is it because the software product is better, or is it because the marketing is better? How do you know? So it's really hard to understand that, and also it's not being taught in the university, right? What we're being taught in university is a programming, solving algorithmical problems, writing programs, and people think that this is what they're going to be doing. And yes, that's a part of what they're being doing, but in the end of the day, we're all solving the business problems. And another big part that I think is overlooked in university is the fact that you will be working in a team. Some universities changing now, but there are still a big bunch of universities that stick with individual assignments. And it's very rare that, especially in the big companies, you will be doing something on your own, completely alone. In most cases, you will be contributing to the work of the group of people. And that group communication, group thinking, ability to plan the work, being the team player, those are very, very big qualities that are required in order to succeed in a workforce, right? You might not write so much code, but you can still make team better. You can support the team by, sharing your knowledge. You maybe know some programming language better than the other team members, and if you spread your expertise within the team will be able to accomplish more than you would do on your own. Or like the coaching, the support, not just being a jerk and being collaborative. Those are not being taught in universities, and through individual assignments, people are not being taught to work in a team. They won't taught like, oh, that you have to do this, right? And then you will have a small piece of what you need to do on your own. But communication within the group and the group work and the team wins, that's important. Like, in basketball, it's not a single player who wins, it's the whole team.
So how should the students bridge this gap? How would you suggest that how should they train themselves to bridge this gap?
I would say, like, when you're coming into any type of a new team, just observe, right? Observe the group dynamic and see who is in charge, who all people are different, right? Some people are very outgoing, very loud. Some people are more reserved, and it's also the way how people work and how people communicate. So just observe your team. Don't splash your personality into the people, and see how group behaves, and then try to take small steps into integrating yourself in the group, asking the question, how I can help. I think that's a great question. How I can help with what I can help. Like, what is what is our goal as a group of people, right? What we're trying to achieve and how I can help achieve that goal. I think those are very important questions, and you will never, ever be wrong asking those. And then if your group like stumbles and like, oh, we don't really know what we are doing, then maybe go talk to your manager, ask yourself, be sent to a group of people to work with, because then you'll be losing the time on like maybe management is not so good. So you can still learn the mechanics of doing the work, but I would say you would be much better off in a team the team that knows its purpose, right? And the management structure, you have a like CEO on the top, it builds a vision, and then the management's supposed to trickle it down to every person in the organization. And then you will have to see how your management is doing. Can they explain what their manager told them? And get you engaged into the vision of the CEO. And successful companies, they have that vision going through the company, and people know what they're doing and why they're doing it. In companies that are adrift, that's a drifting, people just showing up because they have no idea why they're doing what they're doing. It's not being communicated to them. And so see where you end up. And I understand that it might be hard to choose when you're just out of university. So do your homework when you're coming to interview. It's not only them interviewing you, interview the company. Ask those questions like, what is the purpose? How you make money? What will be my part in that? How I will contribute to the vision of the company, to the mission of the company. And if people who interview you, they have no answers on those questions, that might be not the right company to work for, because you will still be able to earn money in there, right? But you might not be able to realize the potential you have.
Okay. So you said like primarily the person should interact with the people around, try to guess their own positions in the team, and then offer himself to help.
So being a team player, right? So trying to understand how I can contribute. So what are the pain in the team? And maybe taking some of the pain on yourself, because any work you do, like any first assignment you do, you will learn anyway, because you haven't done it before. There is like no bad or good assignments. You will learn anyway, so it's good.
Yeah.
But you might score some points with your team, because then you take something that brings team down or slows down the team. You focus on that, you solve it, you have your creative energy coming from university. You have advantage of the beginner's mind, because those people who are in the team, they used to live with this problem. So they might not see the solution, but you coming from outside, like a consultant or basically a new person, right? So you might able to see a new approach to doing that, or you might even question like, why are we doing that at all? Maybe it not needs to be done. So asking those questions, because there might be some inertia and people just continue doing that because they did it yesterday. And this is what we do a lot with automation. We ask, like especially in a big legacy organization that they were like doing something for 10 years, is it still relevant? Why you started doing that? Maybe like back in the day you had some pain and you solved it by doing this, but now is it pain still around? Do you need to continue doing that? So, and then by removing those pains, chopping them off, you will be helping the team to move forward, because then your teammates will be able to focus on something that they're good at, and eventually will be able to learn it from them and be the same as good as they, or maybe even better. But might be your first contribution. This is how you make yourself known in the team, right? And then everyone understands, well, you're a good girl or a good guy, because you came in, you're not trying to, splash your personality in everyone's face, and you're trying to be helpful, right? So you're not pretending that you know everything from university. You're just trying to be helpful, and I think that's the best approach. And the same with the management. There is a concept of the servant leadership, right? You're trying to enable the team to do their best. is a manager. You're not leading the team. You're not telling the team what to do. You're enabling the team to do what they're best at, and you're removing the roadblocks, obstacles that you as a manager are capable of removing, like organizational hurdles, maybe resources, stuff like that, so they can focus on the task at hand and perform.
Okay. Okay, so like final question, if when you are suppose you are to interview a graduate or and even a newcomer into your organization or your group, what would you look for? What would you look for?
Well, I actually have my friends and I, we are recording a podcast called DevSecOps Talks. It's devsecops.fm. And there we actually publish 2 episodes about being hired and hiring. And I do quite a lot of interviews. So like we are kind of constantly looking for new team members, and then I'm mostly looking for attitude. So attitude for learning. Since in our profession, like automation, everything is changing so quickly. We're getting a lot of new tools, new ways of doing things, and you want to find people eager to learn and eager to improve. And I would say that would be the biggest thing I'm looking for. If person doesn't really know something, that might be not a big of an issue, because if the person is willing to learn it, that's fine with me. Because hiring for what person knows that might be obsolete next year is stupid. It's attitude that makes a difference, that the people willing to adapt, that the people willing to learn. Since IT is moving so fast, and I think that's pretty much the biggest thing that I'm looking for when I'm interviewing the people.
You said DevSecOps Talks.
DevSecOps.fm. So if you have any type of show notes for your podcast, I can send you a link to include it.
Yeah, if you can send the link, you can pick it.
Yeah, I could do that.
That's nice. You've given a good overview of your career and how you would advise newcomers to the industry. And very important points that you have said is understanding the business, and then the rest will follow. If you don't understand the business and how the company is earning money, then you really cannot contribute to the company yourself. It's a very interesting point.
Exactly. And if any of your listeners would love to hear more from me, that's devsecops.fm, or just connect on LinkedIn and send your questions this way. I would be happy to answer or support if you're just a student or someone in search of the next career move and you want advice. I'm fine with giving that advice.